Christian McCaffrey. Christian McCaffrey. Christian McCaffrey. Christian McCaffrey. Christian McCaffrey.
Did you have any idea he would be this good when you recruited him out of high school?
The crazy thing is, yes, when the more you watch him, you realize the level of competition doesn't matter. He's special.
Oh, this ball's in the air for a long time. McCaffrey's able to pull it down, and he's going in for the touchdown!
Christian McCaffrey might weirdly have become underrated.
That's what the Niners just did. They got a Bentley in the driveway, and it's going to be fun till it breaks down.
Swing to McCaffrey, use check blocking out front. Oh, a hurdle for McCaffrey, leaping its way for the touchdown!
Brock Purdy gets the credit for saving the 49ers, and he earned a lot of it.
Bailing out the 49ers, and the 49ers, then he took advantage of his opportunity.
Gets away from Bruce Irvin, throws on the run, wide open, Elijah Mitchell, touchdown! San Francisco!
But the move that actually kept the franchise from collapsing wasn't a quarterback.
I am going to give 15% to a guy who some people think could be the league MVP in Christian McCaffrey.
4 years ago, San Francisco had peaked, fallen apart through injuries, and bet the whole future on a draft bust.
With the third pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the San Francisco 49ers select Trey Lance, quarterback, North Dakota State.
Then they would trade for a running back that the whole league thought was broken. However, Christian McCaffrey then became the reason that the 49ers actually started to thrive again. To understand how desperate things got, you gotta start at the top of the mountain. The 2019 49ers were a freight train. They went 13-3 behind a dangerous defense and a run game that turned teams into dust. They rode that identity all the way to the Super Bowl against Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. Raheem Mostert had gone off in the NFC title game, and a first ring for Kyle Shanahan felt close enough to touch. For 3 quarters in Miami, it seemed like they'd do it. They led 20-10 into the fourth, and the confetti was almost ready. Then the rest of the fourth quarter happened. Mahomes found Tyreek Hill for 44 yards on a 3rd and 15, the first real deep shot the Chiefs had hit all day, and the whole game flipped. Damian Williams ran for a 38-yard touchdown to seal it as the Chiefs scored 21 straight points in the final 6 minutes and 13 seconds to win 31-20.
And the pass will be intercepted! It's intercepted! Kansas City, you've got a champion! Kendall Fuller seals the deal!
The 49ers defense wilted late, and Shanahan watched another Super Bowl slip through his hands. This was the man who 3 years earlier as the Falcons offensive coordinator was on the sideline for the 28-3 collapse to the Patriots. Now he had his own late game meltdown on the biggest stage. The one play that still haunts the 49ers franchise came with a minute 49 left in the game, with the 49ers trailing 24-20 with the ball in their hands. Emmanuel Sanders got wide open on a post route, a throw Garoppolo had made all season, and Jimmy overthrew him. If that ball is on target, the 49ers likely hoist the Lombardi. Sanders said later that he still goes out on the field sometimes and simulates catching that pass, because it could have been legendary for him and Jimmy. Instead, it became one of the biggest what-ifs in NFL history. The loss didn't break the franchise, but it planted the first crack. The 2020 season was when the crack split open. The 49ers had the second most injuries of any NFL team over the past 20 years. Jimmy suffered a high ankle sprain and missed most of the season, and they were down to backup quarterbacks for long stretches. Nick Mullins and the rest of the backups took turns trying to keep the offense afloat, and none of them could. A 13-3 team collapsed to 6-10, dead last in the division, and missed the playoffs entirely. A roster that had been a quarter away from a title suddenly looked old and fragile. The Super Bowl window that had felt wide open was now half shut, if not more. But a franchise this talented wasn't going to stay down forever. They clawed back in 2021. They went 10-7 and scraped their way into the playoffs as a wild card, then went on a run that nobody saw coming. They upset the Cowboys on the road and then went into Green Bay and knocked off the top-seeded Packers in the divisional round, fighting their way to the NFC Championship game against the Rams off the back of prime Deebo Samuel. They were leading heading into the fourth quarter, and then it all fell apart within 15 minutes. Jaquiski Tartt actually dropped a game-sealing interception that would have buried the Rams. Matt Stafford drove down the field and scored, and Jimmy Garoppolo's last pass that season was a desperate backhand fling of the ball that ended in a game-sealing pick forced by Aaron Donald. The Rams won 20-17 and went on to win the Super Bowl. San Francisco had now lost a Super Bowl and a championship conference title game in the span of 3 years. Heartbreak had become an unwanted offseason tradition. That was the moment Shanahan and general manager John Lynch decided Jimmy G wasn't the answer. and so they went all in on a quarterback. In the 2021 draft, they traded up from 12 to 3, sending 3 first-round picks to Miami for their rights to take Trey Lance. They bet the entire future of the franchise on one arm and a set of legs. It was a curve-breaking price, and Kyle said at the time that if they didn't make the move, somebody else would have, and the cost would have only gone up. But the bet busted. Trey only lasted 4 games for the 49ers as a starter. He suffered a season-ending ankle injury early in 2022, and within a couple of years, he was on his 3rd team in 4 seasons, fighting for a backup job on the Chargers after throwing 5 interceptions in a Cowboys preseason game a few years ago. The quarterback they traded 3 first-round picks to get never became the answer, and those were the picks that could have helped rebuild the roster around a different plan. The Shanahan and Lynch jobs were on the line, and the franchise quarterback they had mortgaged the future for was gone. But here's the part most people forget. The move that quietly saved the franchise wasn't a quarterback at all. It was a running back the rest of the league had started to think wasn't elite anymore. Long before he was a 49er, Christian McCaffrey was just a kid at Stanford with the famous last name and a ridiculous highlight reel. He was the Heisman Trophy runner-up in 2015, and he set the NCAA record for most all-purpose yards in a season with 3,864. In 3 college seasons, he scored 33 touchdowns as a runner, a receiver, and a returner, and he even threw for 2 scores. He was the kind of player who lined up all over the field and made you hold your breath every time he touched it. The kid carried a Stanford program that had been down for a while. The football bloodlines run deep. His dad, Ed McCaffrey, was a wide receiver for the Broncos in the late 1990s. Mike Shanahan, Kyle's father, was a head coach in Denver, and the two of them won 2 Super Bowls together. That means Kyle Shanahan literally grew up around the McCaffrey family. The 2 men who would later team up in San Francisco had a bond that went back decades, all the way back to backyard barbecues and Broncos practices. When the trade happened, people called it a blessing for McCaffrey, because he was going to a coach who already knew exactly who he was. Carolina took Christian 8th overall in the 2017 draft, and he showed right away what he was.
With the 8th pick in the 2017 NFL draft, the Carolina Panthers have selected Christian McCaffrey.
His rookie year, he caught 80 passes, ran for 435 yards, and cleared 1,000 yards from scrimmage. He scored his first career touchdown on a shovel pass from Cam Newton.
Got a long way to go. On 2nd and goal, the shovel pass, McCaffrey, touchdown!
And he was a problem for defenses from week 1. He wasn't a workhorse back in the old sense. He was a receiving weapon out of the backfield, more like a chess piece who could beat you on the ground or through the air. He broke the Panthers rookie record for catches, and he was the only rookie running back in the league with 70 receptions and 5 touchdown catches that season. His sophomore year in 2018 was a huge step up, somehow. He ran for 1,098 yards, caught 107 passes, and put up 1,965 yards from scrimmage, a Panthers franchise record. That catch total broke Matt Forte's record for the most receptions by a running back in a single season, and he posted the highest catch percentage in a season by any player with 100 catches, while making 2nd team All-Pro. There's a game against the Seahawks where he went for 125 rushing yards and 112 receiving yards, a franchise record for yards from scrimmage in a single game. And the first player in years to top 100 yards and score a touchdown in both receiving and running. He even threw a 50-yard touchdown pass on 4th and 2 against the Saints a few weeks later, which put him in a club with Walter Payton and Gale Sayers, as the only players to rack up 50 yards rushing, receiving, and passing in a single game. That was the opposite of a sophomore slump, and then came 2019, which is arguably the best season any running back has ever had. He led the NFL with 2,392 total yards and 19 total touchdowns on 403 touches. He became just the 3rd running back in NFL history with 1,000 yards rushing and 1,000 yards receiving in the same season. The year brought his first Pro Bowl and his first team All-Pro. He had weeks that looked like a video game. He opened the year with 128 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns against the Rams, plus 10 catches for 81 yards. A 76-yard touchdown run against the Cardinals showed his breakaway gear. And 2 weeks later, he set a Panthers franchise record with an 84-yard touchdown run against the Jags, finishing that day with 176 rushing yards and 2 more scores. This was the peak of his Panthers career, and it looked like the start of a Hall of Fame path. The detail that tells you exactly who he was before that 2019 season actually came out from his coach. A QB coach on the Panthers, Jake Peetz, sat him down and told him he was one of the worst pass protectors in the league before the season started. And a lot of stars would have bristled at that. McCaffrey's response was to ask how to be coached on how to fix it. He was already great, and he still wanted the hard truth. Peetz built a plan for him, and CMC did the rest. Fall in Carolina came right after the peak, and it happened really fast. His body started to break down in early 2020. A high ankle sprain in week 2 cost him 6 games. Then a shoulder injury took 4 more. Then a glute strain, another 4. In 2021, it was a hamstring and then an ankle that landed him on IR and ended his season. All told, he missed 23 of Carolina's 33 regular season games across those 2 years. The Panthers had made him the highest paid running back in football in the 2020 offseason with a 4-year, $64 million extension, and they kept getting a ghost.
Carolina's Christian McCaffrey is signing a 4-year extension, averaging $16 million per year, making him the highest paid running back in NFL history.
The league started to whisper the word that sticks around running backs, and that word, / 2 words, was injury prone. That's why the Panthers were willing to move on. A new regime came in. The team had no quarterback and they were trying to rebuild. They fired head coach Matt Rule on October 10, 2022 after a 1-4 start. And 10 days later, they were shopping their best player. Interim coach Steve Wilks didn't even want the trade. He said later that if he had any say in personnel, he would have never gotten rid of Christian McCaffrey. But the front office wanted draft picks to chase a quarterback and the cupboard was bare. The suitors came down to the 49ers, Rams, and Bills. Carolina wanted a first-round pick and none of those teams had one to give. The league had given up on the idea that a back could actually carry a franchise, and they were about to be proven wrong. But before we get into how he actually saved the 49ers, if you all are enjoying this content, I'd appreciate it if you all would subscribe. It lets YouTube and myself know that y'all want to see more content like this. Now let's get back into it. October 2022 was the moment that everything changed, and it all started with a team that didn't look like it was changing at all. The 49ers were 3-3, stuck in the middle of the pack, scoring 20.3 points per game. They had Debo, Brandon Ayuk, and George Kittle, but they still needed more firepower. So they traded for McCaffrey on October 20th.
Breaking news on this Thursday night as Christian McCaffrey is on the move.
The price was a 2023 second-round pick, a third, a fourth, and a 2024 fifth.
Breaking news tonight, the Panthers are trading running back Christian McCaffrey to the 49ers for a second, third, and fourth round pick in 2023 and a fifth rounder in 2024. This makes a huge difference. The Panthers tweeting this out. Thank you, Run CMC. And we will send you off to the West Coast.
San Francisco only paid about $690,000 of his salary for the rest of that season, because the Panthers had already converted most of his salary into a signing bonus, which for a franchise-altering talent was great. The wild part is how close it came to going the other way. The Rams wanted him too, badly, and they were in the same division. So did the Bills. Carolina wanted a first-round pick in return, and the 49ers didn't even have a 2023 first to give after the Lance trade. So the Panthers then settled for the package of day 2 picks, and owner David Tepper signed off. If the Rams had landed McCaffrey instead, the whole balance of power in the NFC West flips, and the 49ers don't get the piece that changed everything. His debut was quiet, almost a tease. He played his first game as a 49er against the Chiefs in Week 7 and put up 38 rushing yards and 24 receiving yards in a 44-23 loss. Then the floodgates opened. In Week 8 against the Rams, he became the first 49ers running back to record a passing, rushing, and receiving touchdown in the same game.
They do. And he is in for the touchdown. A passing touchdown, a receiving touchdown, a rushing touchdown.
Only the fourth player since the 1970 merger to pull off the trifecta. An offense that had been stuck suddenly had a chess piece nobody in the league could match, and he was named NFC Offensive Player of the Week. The ceiling of the team jumped the moment he walked in the door. What made the trade so urgent was a quarterback disaster happening at the exact same time. Trey Lance had a season-ending ankle injury earlier that year. Then came Week 13 on December 4th, when Jimmy Garoppolo broke his foot and was done for the season. The 49ers were down to Brock Purdy, and his story is worth a beat. He was the last pick in the 2022 draft, pick number 262, which made him Mr. Irrelevant.
The 47th Mr. Irrelevant 2022, with the 262nd pick in the 2022 NFL Draft, the San Francisco 49ers select Brock Purdy, a quarterback from Iowa State. Go Niners!
He had been a 4-year starter at Iowa State, where he threw for over 12,000 yards and 81 touchdowns, and he still almost went undrafted. He had to beat out Nate Sudfeld, a veteran the 49ers had just paid $2 million guaranteed to be the backup, just to make the roster. A team with Super Bowl hopes, though, was handing the keys off to the final pick of the draft. Purdy took over against the Dolphins and won 33-17. And McCaffrey went off for 146 scrimmage yards and a receiving touchdown in that game. The roster was so strong that the model said that the drop-off from Garoppolo to a rookie was barely a fraction of what you'd expect. But numbers only tell you so much. The reason a rookie could look that comfortable had a lot to do with the man that was lined up right behind him. This is the heart of the rescue, and it's the part that gets missed. Purdy gets the credit for saving Shanahan and Lynch's jobs, and he was a big part. He was poised and ran the offense like a guy who had been there for years. Kyle said himself that the number one thing Purdy did was take care of the football, throwing 16 touchdowns and 4 picks across his run. But Christian was the reason a kid who was supposed to be holding a clipboard could look like a star. He was a safety valve on every play, the threat out of the backfield that kept defenses from teeing off on a rookie. A defense couldn't pin its ears back and tee off against him because the moment they did, the ball went to McCaffrey in space and he made them pay. He turned a good offense into an unstoppable one, and he did it by taking pressure off of the one position that couldn't afford anymore. The 2022 finish showed what this partnership could do. Christian kept on rolling, with 153 scrimmage yards and 2 touchdowns and a 35-7 win over the Buccaneers, 138 yards and a score in a 21-13 win over the Seahawks, and 193 scrimmage yards and a 37-34 overtime win over the Raiders. The 49ers won out, rode a long winning streak into the playoffs, and went 8-0 after Purdy took over. McCaffrey finished the year with 1,139 rushing yards, 85 catches, and 13 total touchdowns across both teams, and made the Pro Bowl. In the playoffs, they beat the Seahawks 41-23 in the wild card, with McCaffrey going for 119 rushing yards and a receiving touchdown. They beat the Cowboys 19-12 in the divisional round, with McCaffrey punching it in for a rushing score. Then they ran into the Eagles in the NFC Championship game and lost 31-7. A game where CMC was forced to play most of the day without a healthy quarterback after Purdy hurt his elbow. Christian still had 106 scrimmage yards and a rushing TD in that loss. The ceiling had jumped the second he got there, and now the only question was how far this could go. The rescue had gotten them close. The only thing left was whether it could actually get them all the way to winning a ring. But before that, we have a quick word from our sponsor over at PrizePicks. The football preseason is officially here, and there's no better place to run your game than PrizePicks, America's #1 sports pick app. We've got star players on new teams and an incredible rookie class ready to take over as we get ready for the biggest football season yet. What I love about PrizePicks is that you don't have to just stick to week action. You can lock in full season picks right now on player projections. I already put together a 3-pick lineup that I'm locked into for the year. I have Justin Jefferson at more than 1,149.5 receiving yards, Jahmyr Gibbs at more than 1,199.5 rush yards, and Derrick Henry at more than 1,249.5 rushing yards as well. And the good news is building your lineup is super easy. You just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player projections, submit your lineup, and follow your progress all year long right inside the app. Plus, PrizePicks is available in all 50 states, including California, Texas, Georgia, and Florida. Download the app today and use code CLNS to get $150 instantly in lineups if you win your first $5 lineup. Again, that's download the app today and use code CLNS to get $150 instantly in lineups if you win your first $5 lineup. And you know what? I'm going to say that actually one more time. That's $150 instantly in lineups if you win your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, America's #1 sports pick app. Now let's get back into it. The 2023 season was the first full year of McCaffrey and Purdy together, and it was the best year of this offense by far. Christian led the league in rushing with 1,459 yards and touches with 339, in scrimmage yards with 2,023, and in touchdowns with 21.
Motion by McCaffrey to swing to McCaffrey. Use check blocking out front. Oh, a hurdle for McCaffrey. Leaping his way for the touchdown.
He won Offensive Player of the Year and finished 3rd in the MVP vote, behind only Dak Prescott and Lamar Jackson. He was named the NFC Offensive Player of the Month twice, in September and again in December. The 49ers earned the 1 seed and rolled through the playoffs. The offensive unit looked like the most dangerous group in football. CMC had games where he simply took over, like opening day against the Steelers going for 152 yards and a touchdown, or the 177-yard 4-touchdown day against the Cardinals, and he was the engine on every single drive. This was the season that proved the trade wasn't a patch job. It was the foundation of a contender. Along with that, McCaffrey would tie the record for games in a row scoring a touchdown at 17. The NFC Championship game against the Lions was the moment it all came together. The 49ers were down 24-7 at halftime, and a lot of teams would have folded. They came back and won 34-31, the 4th comeback ever from 17 points down in a conference title game. The flip started with a 51-yard pass that deflected off a defender's face mask into Brandon Ayuk's hands. And CMC punched it in with a 1-yard score to tie the game at 24. He had 2 touchdowns on the day along with 90 rushing yards. Purdy threw for 267 yards and added 48 on the ground with a pair of 21-yard scrambles. The week before in the divisional round, McCaffrey had 98 yards against the Packers and ran it in for the game-winning touchdown late in the fourth quarter. Brock engineered those comebacks, but Christian was the engine that made every drive go. He even defended his quarterback publicly, saying all Purdy had done since he arrived was play at an elite level and that everything starts with him. Then came the Super Bowl rematch against the Chiefs, and it ended the same way 49ers Super Bowl seemed to end in the 21st century. They lost 25-22 in overtime. The first Super Bowl played under the new overtime rules that made sure both teams got the ball. The only touchdown of the first half was a trick play, a 21-yard pass from receiver Jawan Jennings to McCaffrey.
Jawan Jennings, trick play. Oh, this ball's in the air for a long time. McCaffrey's able to pull it down, and he's going in for the touchdown!
He finished with 80 rushing yards and 8 catches for 80 yards in that score, becoming the first player in Super Bowl history with at least 75 rushing yards and 75 receiving yards in the same game. He also lost a fumble early in that game though as well. The 49ers kicked a field goal to open overtime, and then Mahomes did what Mahomes does. He ended it with a 3-yard touchdown throw to Mecole Hardman to win it.
Mahomes flings it. It's there! Hardman! Jackpot! Kansas City! And this was the Andy Reid special.
Pat finished 34-46 for 333 yards and 2 scores and won his 3rd Super Bowl MVP, while the Chiefs became the first back-to-back champions in 19 years. The 49ers were so close again, and again it was Mahomes and the Chiefs standing between them and a ring. Shanahan fell to 0-2 as a head coach in Super Bowls. Players said after this one, it hit the hardest, because of all the near misses that had piled up before it. And that's exactly where the story ends for a lot of running backs. It would soon get very worse very fast for Christian McCaffrey. The 2024 season was when the body fought back. McCaffrey missed the opener with an Achilles tendonitis in both feet, landed on IR and missed 8 games. The same legs that had carried the offense for a year and a half couldn't even get him back on the field. Week 13 brought a PCL sprain in his knee, and that cost him 5 more games.
Over his career, toss McCaffrey, good acceleration into the second A. McCaffrey still on his feet at the 30 and down at the 28. It's a pickup of 20 for Christian McCaffrey.
He was out for 13 total, and the team wasn't the same without him. The offense had lost its engine, and the 49ers fell to 6-11. The championship window that had felt wide open the year before suddenly looked nailed shut. The window was now closing right in front of them, and a lot of people wrote him off, and a lot of people wrote the franchise off right with him. Then 2025 happened, and it was a comeback. A lot of people had written his obituary on his career, and he made them all look foolish. McCaffrey won Comeback Player of the Year last year, taking 31 of 50 first-place votes, with Aiden Hutchinson a distant second. He started all 17 games, and he showed no ill effects from the lost year. He rushed 311 times for 1,202 yards and 10 touchdowns, and he led all running backs with 924 receiving yards on 102 catches with 7 receiving scores. He set a franchise record with 413 touches. His 2,126 scrimmage yards were second most in franchise history. He became the 3rd 49er to win that Comeback Player of the Year award, joining Bryant Young in 1999 and Garrison Hurst in 2001. He had stretches where he simply was the Hulk offense. He ran for 140 yards against the Bears in a 42-38 win. Went for 117 yards and 2 receiving scores against the Colts in a 48-27 blowout the week before, and put up 3 touchdowns on the Cardinals in week 11. He went for 129 yards and 2 rushing scores against the Falcons and 106 yards and 2 TDs against the Giants. For long parts of the year, he led the entire team in rushing by more than 800 yards, caught more passes than any other player, and led the team in receiving yards. The running back was the offense. Then the 49ers went into Philly, and they beat the Eagles 23-19 in the wildcard round. McCaffrey had 2 touchdowns, including the game-winning receiver. He finished that day with 114 scrimmage yards, the kind of effort that has defined his whole time in San Francisco, honestly, his whole career. The same franchise that had peaked and fallen apart a few years earlier was back in the playoffs off his touchdown. The rescue had come full circle. The run did end in the next week in a 41-6 blowout loss to the Seahawks in the divisional round, where he only managed 35 yards, and that is part of the story. The honest read on his legacy is this: he probably won't make the Hall of Fame because the injuries took too many games and too many seasons. That's just the truth for a running back with his kind of wear. The Hall of Fame rewards longevity, and he lost too much of it to his body. But the peak was so high and so central to a franchise's survival that he doesn't need a gold jacket to matter. The 49ers tried the quarterback route, and the quarterback they bet on busted. What saved them wasn't the man under center. It was the back who made every quarterback look better. McCaffrey did for the 49ers what a franchise quarterback usually does. He raised the ceiling the day he walked in, and he kept a contending roster from wasting its window. In only 4 seasons as a 49er, CMC is already a legend. If he stays healthy, the championship window is small, but it's still open. McCaffrey was the quiet rescue behind the Purdy story, and the window is still slightly open if his body holds up. But this offseason, if I'm being honest, isn't very promising yet. But good luck to him. So there you have it. Watch this next video if you haven't already, and subscribe if you're new. Thanks for watching.